This is one of the most popular videos ever made. So many people sent it to me because they saw it online. But why exactly are these sharks going limp? Well, if you want to find out, then let's get started. What you just saw is an example of what scientists call tonic immobility, which is basically a temporary paralysis. And what happens is that when a shark is flipped upside down, it loses its sense of balance and coordination because of its inner ear. It has a structure called the utriculus, which is part of the so-called vestibular system and functions as a kind of gyroscope. It contains tiny hair cells which bend when they detect movement. These hairs send signals to the brain to help it figure out where the body is oriented in space. However, when the shark is flipped, the signals from the utriculus get jumbled, and the shark's brain cannot properly process them, which leads to temporary paralysis. The shark basically doesn't know what's up or down anymore, so it stops moving altogether. When this happens, the shark's muscles relax completely, which causes it to become floppy and lose all motor function. Even its heartbeat can slow down, and it may even stop swimming for several minutes to tens of minutes. Now, it isn't really paralyzed, more like voluntarily choosing to be paralyzed. Paralyzed. In fact, if you gently touch a shark while it's in tonic immobility, it won't react at all. But if you prod it aggressively, it will react with aggression. Basically, it's still conscious and aware, but for some reason chooses to not move. Sometimes it seems like the sharks can't recover from tonic mobility on their own, but if you flip them back right side up, they will quickly regain motor function and swim away. Now, I was wondering if tonic mobility is specific to sharks or if other animals also show something similar. So, I did a little research and found that yes, there are actually quite a few animals that exhibit similar behaviors. One example is rabbits. Just like sharks, rabbits have a well-developed vestibular system in their inner ears, which helps them maintain their balance. However, when they are flipped or held in an unnatural position, they may freeze and become unresponsive for a period of time. This behavior is known as thanatosis or death feigning, which is similar to tonic mobility in sharks, but it's not entirely the same thing. You see, while tonic mobility in sharks is thought to be a neurological response to changes in orientation, thanatosis in rabbits is more of a voluntary behavior used as a defense mechanism. When a rabbit plays dead, it basically fools predators into thinking that they are already dead and therefore not worth eating. The rabbit remains motionless until the predator moves away, at which point it will start moving again. Of course, sharks don't play dead to fool predators, or at least I don't think so. So, it's probably not the same phenomenon. Chickens also exhibit tonic immobility. Small birds often fall victim to predation by larger birds, such as hawks. Therefore, they have evolved to adopt a particular behavior when threatened. If a small bird finds itself in a dangerous situation, it may lie on the ground, close its eyes, and appear lifeless. This behavior confuses the predator, giving the small bird time to escape. This is another form of playing possum, as they say. So, this is definitely not the same thing as the sharks. But what about crocodiles? Crocodiles are closely related to birds, and therefore also to chickens. And when you flip a chicken over, it often plays dead. But what about crocodiles? Well, surprisingly, when you flip a crocodile over, it does something similar to the shark. That is, it becomes temporarily still and doesn't seem to react to anything. However, it doesn't seem as pronounced as in sharks. So, maybe it's related. Another interesting example is lobsters. Like sharks, lobsters have a well-developed sense of balance, which allows them to maintain their upright posture while walking sideways along the seafloor. However, when a lobster is removed from its natural environment and flipped onto its back, it becomes rigid and stops moving for a few seconds to a few minutes. However, this behavior is not thought to be an example of tonic immobility, but rather a reflex to protect itself from injury. When a lobster is flipped onto its back, its legs are exposed and vulnerable to injury, so it contracts its abdominal muscles to protect itself. This behavior is called thanatosis, or playing possum, but it's different from the shark's tonic immobility. Snakes are also famous for playing possum. Some species like hognose snakes or water snakes can roll onto their backs, open their mouths, stick out their tongues, or even emit foul smells from their vents. These behaviors are thought to be examples of thanatosis, which is basically a defense mechanism against predators. Some sources also mention that this could be a form of tonic immobility, but I couldn't find any scientific evidence for that. So, in summary, there are indeed animals other than sharks that show tonic mobility or thanatosis, but they aren't the same thing in all cases. For example, sharks seem to experience a brief loss of consciousness, or at least awareness, whereas animals like rabbits or chickens are consciously faking their death. So, I guess it's sort of like playing possum, but only in some species. Okay, so now you know why sharks go limp when flipped upside down. But what about those tiger sharks in the beginning of the video? Well, it's actually the same thing. Tiger sharks are a type of shark, so they can show tonic mobility too. And also, the bigger ones can easily flip the smaller ones, which is why they were doing that in the video. All right, that's everything I know on the topic. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Oh, You Didn't Know. If you want to learn more about the animal kingdom and beyond, then make sure to stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.